computer station out of Pennsylvania.
Oh, really? Very good.
I'm making the rounds.
You don't have a primary.
No.
Yeah.
So you don't have it, do you?
No.
Good. How come, not Justin, what's his name? Jason, never gave me the microphone to ask it. The other day.
Oh, the other day?
What am I, chopped liver?
Well,
I was sitting
they
there
were.
taking him away.
Oh, well,
He
did
saw
you
me.
didn't you talk to him?
When I first, during one of the breaks I did, he knew I was there. We spoke.
No. Well, he didn't have everyone. They only picked 6 people or something. But one of them was Derek, who
Yeah.
really isn't a
He's not a
libertarian.
candidate.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I haven't seen
But-
Derek in years.
Yeah.
He used to work.
Well, we're
Whenever you're
ready to
ready.
start. Yeah, let's get going. 'Cause
What are we gonna talk
I have to
about?
go. Your campaign.
A campaign, okay.
Yes.
There's the goals. There's
Why
the-
do you have that lampshade right here?
Because we get this view. Well, I don't need a lampshade anymore. Everything broke a little while ago, so I'm kind of like scrambling around trying to get things organized.
But why does it? Oh, there's Jonathan.
Yeah.
Hello, Jonathan. Oh, are we on?
Yep.
Thanks for telling us.
Well,
You
you
didn't
kept
introduce us
asking me
even.
questions. I'm not at the mic yet.
Oh,
Welcome, Nevada listeners. This is Clark with the Herd again. And today we have a show going on with Ed Uehling. I didn't even
Jonathan
get
Friedrich.
Jonathan Krieger.
Friedrich.
Friedrich. Oh, Jonathan Friedrich. I got you. The name's on the list of people running. I should have known that. Anyways, he's joining us today to tell us all about his campaign and is running for the Senate here in Nevada,
Senate District 3.
Senate District 3. You got a few other people running in that district.
Just 2 others,
Oh, just 2 others.
but
Well,
no primary.
no primary. How does that work?
I'm on the Libertarian Party,
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
and there's 1 Republican and 1 incumbent Democrat who we need to replace.
District
So
3.
there's
I thought there was,
there's no primary at all
No, for anybody.
for anybody. Yeah.
I thought Heck was running on the.
That's in the Congress.
No, Heck's
No,
running
this
for
is-
Senate.
He's running,
No.
Heck is running.
Oh, the
You're talking
US.
about
I'm
congressional.
sorry.
You're
I
talking
States,
about
states.
I got to get on the line here. I'm a little confused. My show is very confusing because of stuff like this. I was in court yesterday and it's crazy. Anyways, welcome, future Senator Friedrich, and
I love
welcome
those words.
Ed Uehling, and knock it off here. Let's get cracking. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, tell us about yourself first of all.
I am a transplanted New Yorker and Salt Lake Cityite. I moved here 13 years ago to lead a quiet, tranquil, economical lifestyle. It has been
Good choice.
very good.
Come to Las Vegas.
In theory. I have spent approximately $60 in gambling in all the years I've lived here. I have won once $20. So when they closed the slots, they lost one of the last big gamblers.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
When they close the
The
slots, what do
slots, the slots on the slot machine. Now you have to put the dollar bills in.
Oh.
Right, and you don't.
Oh,
No,
that's
right.
that's above my budget. My
Yeah.
budget was 20 nickels a month.
Yeah,
And when I lost total control, I'd
Right.
throw a quarter in.
right.
Oh.
So anyhow,
So do you have any plans to change that system when you become a state senator?
nope.
Go back to the,
I've got enough to do on my plate with issues protecting the citizens and the elderly citizens of the state.
Good. Well, do something about the judiciary because they are really broken.
Well, I'm before a judge right now and a Discovery Commissioner judge who has sanctioned on 2 separate occasions a homeowners association, Rancho Bel Air, for all kinds of devious shenanigans.
Yeah,
And
they
each
run like
time-
the Gestapo, these
It-
homeowner associations.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
It is a form of what's the word I'm looking for?
Extortion?
Not
or-
extortion, of, escapes me. It's evil.
Yeah.
It's a form of fascism, that's the word I was
Oh,
looking for.
okay.
And you got a board made up of anywhere from 3 to maximum of 9 people that are controlling the lives of thousands of people in the big homeowner associations. I happen to live in about a 120 unit association, and these board members, all they want to do is spend money and violate the law. And I have taken them to task time after time, and I've been relatively successful. As a result of that, I became a non-paid lobbyist up in Carson City, representing approximately 1.2 million people that live in these, as you say, Gestapos. And last session, I met Ed up there, and we chit-chatted. He was there. I don't remember exactly what bills you were trying to push.
Well, I testified with several, yeah.
But I had 4 bills that 4 separate legislators, 2, no, it was 1 senator and 3 assembly persons that sponsored for me. And I actually got 2 of them through the meat grinder, and the governor signed, protecting homeowners. So I'm very proud of that. In the past, I had gotten crumbs, as I like to call, through the legislature. But it's expanded. The commerce and margins tax needs to be repealed. People don't realize, the citizens of the state, they're going to ultimately be paying for it, because business can sustain paying all this additional taxation. They're going to have to add it on to the items they're selling.
That's right.
Didn't the Supreme Court just weigh in their illustrious concept thought that, oh, well, the state can't do without that money that they were going to get from this commerce tax. How are you going to do that? So they took it off the ballot, didn't they?
I don't know. I know that there is, I've signed the petition to get it on the ballot.
Yeah, that's void now, I think.
No, it's all void.
Yeah, now it's all
As of
void.
when?
The
As
Supreme
of
Court
last week, when
yeah.
the Supreme Court made the
Yeah.
decision he's
Oh,
talking
I
about.
did,
Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Well, yeah, it's
Yeah,
totally,
they said the explanation didn't contain enough information about how the state budget would be affected.
So you have
Well,
to
when they
realize-
passed it, the legislators passed it, they didn't consider how how the legislation would affect the budgets of individual, of
School
all the
districts.
people.
The theory is all money
Homeowner.
belongs to the government. It's their money. They just let you have a little of it now and then.
Oh, that's
So
nice
when you do away with a proposed tax increase, you have to remember that's the money of the government already, even before it goes into effect. That's the government's
Yeah,
money.
that's the-
So
it's the government's
if you
money.
don't end up with that increase, they can't get by without the money. It's their money. It's not your money. That's the
Well,
concept that the
Well, they
Supreme
need
Court
to
just said.
They need to learn not to spend what they don't have, and
Well,
not to keep squeezing money out of people, because the main reason I moved here was because of the real estate taxes back in New York.
oh my God, I
were
can imagine.
outrageous.
Oh, jeez.
Outrageous.
Yeah.
I had a one-family home, and I was paying, on Long Island, I was paying $25,100.
Yeah.
And there just comes a point when you say, enough is enough.
Yeah.
I was working to maintain that house,
Sure.
and it was devastating. But anyway, getting back to my campaign, that's one of the issues. We've got to do something with reining in spending.
Well,
One of my thoughts was, they keep throwing money at education, but they don't get any results.
well,
They've got
because that's
plenty
a
of
phony,
money.
that's a straw dog or whatever you want to call it. That's not where the money goes.
Well, what
That's what
I
they
would like
use.
to do is have the, I guess, legislature mandate that 25 or 30% of the money that's expended on the administrative end of the schools be reallocated into the classroom, teachers, books, supplies, where it needs to be. why do we need all these district superintendents?
Administrators.
Well, why do we need so many?
You don't.
Well, let the axe fall
Right, exactly.
But now,
and reallocate the money.
That's too common sense for
Oh, I'm
for
sorry.
people in the legislature there that we have now. Like, why would they pass the Sanderville, the largest tax increase in history, when everybody just about ran on the platform they weren't gonna do that? That's how they got elected.
Uh-huh.
And then they go there and they do it. Everyone has come into Ed's shows here for this type of an interview. Every one of them is running basically because of the tax situation of what Sanderville did. Every single one that's running this go-around is running on that basis.
And I heard Sandoval speak at a luncheon that I attended prior to his reelection, and he said that the gross margins tax was the most awful, god-awful tax that could have been thrust upon us, and not to vote for it. And what was it, about 75 or 80% of the
80%.
people voted against it. So what did he do? He changed the name, and he pushed it.
that's right.
Well-
It's just incredible.
That's why you don't have to have a tax increase necessarily, because you can raise fees for certain things. So it's just all a name game. You know, it's all.
Well, they're
it's
not
all-
calling it a fee, they're calling it
No, I know that,
tax,
but
no.
that's another trick that they do.
Well,
They
there are all
always
sorts of
call
tricks,
some-
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I had no problem, and I don't know if Ed will agree with me or not, but any tax, or I guess we'd be calling a sales tax increase on cigarettes or on booze, I had no problem with that. Because it's a sin tax, it causes problems. And if you're a smoker, it may wind up giving you a cancer, and you wind up in the hospital, and the citizens wind up having to foot the bill to treat you. So I had no problem with seeing a $1 a pack increase. Same thing with booze, increase on booze. It's not something staple that you need to sustain life. So it's a sin tax, no problem. And then, of course, the other big issue is the homeowner associations, as you call them,
Gestapo.
Gestapos. I call them gulags.
Yeah, this similar
And,
name.
I was one of the commissioners appointed by Governor Sandoval to the Common Interest Community Commission. There are 7 commissioners,
Are you over all the homeowners
the whole state.
association?
This is a state,
Agency.
a commission, a state commission.
Good
And they
oversight. That's what this.
The
need
problem
civilian
is,
The problem is, it isn't oversight.
it's corrupt. Shocking.
So, all those commissions work on behalf of the people they're supposed to be supervising.
Ironically,
Well, you were a commissioner. How were you corrupted? You're corrupt.
I wasn't.
Well,
I
how-
exposed corruption.
And
So
he
then
got
they fired you.
and- No, they got,
Almost.
he got 2 people fired.
No, 3.
Three.
3 of the
Oh.
commissioners. I exposed a violation of state law that the commission, before I was on it, adopted an advisory opinion, which was illegal. This advisory opinion allowed the collection companies, and this gets very complicated, allowed the collection companies to tack on outrageous fees on top of the foreclosures. When the house was foreclosed, they placed a lien on it. The collection companies ran up all kinds of outrageous fees and costs, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. In order to get that lien released when the house was sold, you had to pay the collection companies for these fees. 90% of the loans in this state are guaranteed by Fannie, Freddie, and HUD.
Mm-hmm.
So the banks paid these outrageous fees to the collection companies, and then they sold the houses, and then the banks passed the fees and costs on to Fannie, Freddie, and HUD, who then passed them on to guess who? You and you, the American taxpayer.
Mm-hmm.
It was an ingenious scam.
I don't know how a holder of the first deed, let's say, like the lender, how do they get usurped by a homeowner fee or any fee? How does that
There's something
bypass?
called the super priority lien.
Right, that's totally, to me,
And it's legal. And worse than
Well,
that,
someone's
our
gonna-
Supreme Court,
It
Nevada
upheld it,
Supreme
the Supreme Court upheld it.
well, the Supreme Court did two things. They said that the homeowners association could extinguish, had the authority to extinguish the first mortgage. That's now in federal court. There was a case from SRF, was the investor who bought a home over in the Southwest. I think it was for $6,000, if I remember correctly, and it was an $800,000 mortgage. And that $800,000 mortgage was lent by U.S. Bank, and it was extinguished.
see, that's unconstitutional.
Well, worse than
It's
that.
taking property.
What bank would lend to anybody in this state if they know that they could lose their investment or their loan if a homeowner did not pay the assessments?
What was the law when they made the
Well-
loan?
What was the law?
Because that's what they have to go by.
Evidently, it would allow it. It would allow
Even
it.
when they made the loan?
Yeah.
That they could be extinguished?
Yes.
Well, then it's their fault for making the loan then.
Well, then you wouldn't have anybody being able to buy all the
That's fine.
homes that were
Eliminate
built
that
here.
illegal law and then we'll owe money again.
They'll change real quick.
Yeah.
Well, the other problem we have is where's all the water gonna come for future expansion into this valley?
Well, I know where it's gonna go to. It's gonna go to California. That's where
So,
it's gonna go.
but getting back to the commission, I discovered that the commissioners passed this advisory opinion that let the collection companies run down this path and make millions of dollars. And I brought it to the attention of all the commissioners. The Attorney General then investigated and came back about 3 months later in a written opinion and said, you cannot, the commission does not have the authority to issue advisory opinions. Only the Nevada Real Estate Division has that authority. And as a result, I put a motion into effect to repeal this advisory opinion. That day, there were only 6 commissioners in attendance. 3 of the commissioners said to repeal this advisory opinion, and 3 of them said no. The next day, the 3 commissioners that said no were gone.
What does that do with the ruling?
Unfortunately, because it was a 3-3 tie, the motion failed, and the ruling is still out there. They've actually, the real estate division has taken it off their website, but whether they've taken it off their books or not, I don't know.
Why were the 3 removed? Did it have anything to do with that vote?
Yes. There were 3 senior deputy attorney generals sitting at that meeting, and I believe they were appalled when the attorney general's office said, you cannot do this, it is illegal, you don't have the authority to issue advisory opinions. And these 3 commissioners just thumbed their nose at the state and said, no, we're not going to remove it. So what did the state do? They removed the commissioners.
Right, but how does that not change the vote when that's the reason they were removed?
The vote remained tied.
Jesus.
But unfortunately, the advisory opinion is still kicking around.
Yeah, it's, I tell you what, there's no state worse than this state. It can't be.
Worse than Jersey?
Well, yeah, it can't be worse. They can be as bad, but they're not gonna be worse. There's no way. This state is totally corrupt, totally corrupt.
I can't argue with you.
Yeah.
So,
And what do the people do about it?
when I try to elect people that want to make a change for the better,
That's what we tried to do the last time. and we got the largest tax increase in history.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So we have to have some sort of a civilian tribunal that can overturn people that are elected in office and change the key to their office the day after they do something that they were not elected to do. Just change the key to their office. You know, you gotta have something authority.
You'd have to change the Constitution. Well,
Change it then.
If you remember, a couple of years ago, Stephen Brooks went on a rampage. He was an elected assemblyman, and he threatened the Speaker of the Assembly. And he was ousted. And then he went on a rampage within his car into California and was arrested, thrown in jail.
Yeah.
Then they extradited him. They brought him back here, and it was a whole messy
Yeah,
situation.
I'm trying to remember
but
some of that.
he's, I think, the first legislator who was ousted out of the assembly. It may have been the first in history. I don't know. So it's rare.
What
think
process
something
did
like
they
that.
use? What process? Was they impeached or?
They refused to seat him, I think.
No, it was in the middle of the session, and actually I was up there
Well,
that day, and we were supposed to have a hearing on a homeowner association bill, and the Assembly Democratic Caucus had a special meeting to discuss what they were going to do with him, with Stephen Brooks. And we waited and waited for hours, and I think they finally came back from this closed meeting, and it was 8 o'clock at night, and we then had the hearing on the bill, and then the next day we found out that they were giving him the heave-ho.
How?
I don't know the details, but they excluded him.
We need to find out the details, because that's what the kind of things that we need to be able to do.
well,
Instantaneously.
it isn't we, it's the senators and
Assembly people.
the assembly people
Right,
themselves.
well,
It
if
isn't
they
we.
did it, then we need, as the voters and the people that they work for, supposedly demand when something happens where someone has to go, demand that they do the same thing they did to
But they
Brooks.
could pick on.
Because
they
Brooks
could-
probably didn't need to go.
Well,
It sounds to me like,
No,
he was
having
mentally
mental
he
issues
was
at that
Oh, okay,
mentally
well, maybe.
unstable. But they could pick on anyone and,
Right,
do
exactly.
something like that if
They
that were
want to
allowed.
target you if you're not one of
They
the
would have
team
been-
players.
of course. It's like we were
They would
talking
have loved
about.
to kick out Michelle Fiore
Yeah,
in the last session.
because she wouldn't vote
Yeah.
for the tax increase.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, well, she was outspoken, and she had her gun bills, so we'll see what happens.
So you have to be careful about those things.
I think she has left her comfort zone. I'd like to see her get elected, but she's got some pretty stiff competition for Congress.
Yeah, she's running for Congress.
Who's she running against?
She's running against all those Republicans that are trying to replace Heck.
Is Robeson in that?
Yes,
Yes,
he's one
Robeson.
of them.
Have you heard his commercials on TV?
Oh.
Can you believe it?
Not so much Tarkanian, but Michael Robeson speaking about that he cut taxes.
Oh, yeah, no,
He cut all the taxes.
Listen to Obama, same thing, just all,
It's just
just lies,
unbelievable.
lies after lies after lies.
Unbelievable that they can put out something like that.
Well, 20 years ago, you couldn't really lie as blatantly as that. But now, the President of the United States just lies every day, just lies, lies, lies. So he's taught everybody
Do you
just
think
lie.
so? Do you think that? Of course they did that, and it was less exposed 20 years ago
That's
than
what
it
I'm
is
saying.
today.
That's what I'm saying.
People are aware of it today because of the internet.
Right.
It's hard for them to get away from things
Because
now.
of the two-party system, one party's a liar and the other party, doesn't do anything about it.
Well,
Terrible.
they don't want to do anything about it because the liars are the ones doing their job, their agenda.
It's corrupt.
That's how they got the
Well,
tax
you
increase
talk about
anyway.
corruption. There's another issue that needs immediate attention, and it is getting attention, but the law has not been changed, and that's the guardianship.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you're aware of it, but
There's horror stories like crazy.
beyond
but-
horror stories now, there are two people, a fellow by the name of Dan Roberts, who's the publisher of the Vegas Voice. It's a monthly newspaper that comes out, and it's targeted for senior citizens. And one of his staff writers, Ronna Goodman, who has been very active with us in the homeowner association issues. And they came across this one particular person who was being, I can't even say, what's a word worse than fleeced? Having all their worldly possessions, anything of value, taken from them by a guardian. Now it started with, you could only have a guardian that lived in this state, appointed as your guardian.
Right.
So if you had a child living in, say, California or Arizona or Utah, they could not be your guardian. They got, Dan Roberts and Ronna Goodman got that changed in the last session. I testified for that bill to allow people out of state to be a guardian. Now, the Justice Hardy, is it Hardy?
Judge Hardy?
Yeah,
You mean Joe Hardy?
No, Hardesty.
Hardesty.
Supreme
Yeah, right.
Court
Oh,
Justice.
Supreme
Oh,
Court,
yeah,
Hardesty.
he's taken charge of this.
He put a commission together, and this Ronna Goodman is on it, and they're supposed to come up with recommendations, I think by June or July, for changes in the law. And it would give me no greater pleasure to be able to either introduce a bill when I become state senator and vote for it, to bring sanity back to guardianship. The whole idea of a guardian is somebody who can't take care of their own financial affairs, to look after them. Instead, they're looking to rob them.
That's right.
That's
They put
the system,
these
that's the
people
courts.
into the hands of robbers.
Yeah, because the money is in the hands of the robbers, not in this mentally slow person. They're not gonna give the court system any money. So you
Well,
take the
court
money away
system,
from them.
They had a crooked master, a crooked family court
Of
judge.
course. What a surprise.
That was fostering this whole process.
I was on the internet last night looking up corruption as it relates to courts and so forth. It's blatant all over the country in guardianship cases, particularly horror stories where they just steal the money and the judge goes right out. There's one guardianship thing that's been going on for 12 years. They've been stealing the kids' money for 12 friggin' years. And nobody will do anything about it.
Is that here in Nevada or is
No,
it?
probably somewhere else. I was reading cases all over the country.
Well, here in Nevada, it wouldn't last 12 years.
Well, no, they get the money.
They grab the
They get
money
it right away.
They grab the
Yeah,
money,
none.
and it's incredible.
There's a woman by the name of April Parks,
Mm-hmm.
who seems to be the ringleader.
No, the ringleader is Jared Schaefer. She works for Jared Schaefer.
All right, who is Jared Schaefer?
Jared
Is he
Schaefer
an
was
attorney?
the previous
Judge?
administrator, county administrator, and handled all these cases. So he has inside information about how it all works. And he set up a private business where he is appointed by these judges that you're talking about, Nordheim and I've forgotten the name of the other one.
To steal the money and
Hoskins, I think.
Give a campaign contribution to the judges.
And where he's assigned all these cases, and April Parks was one of the people working for
She
him.
has now skipped town. I understand she's in Philadelphia. And the DA is supposedly investigating. How long does it take to investigate these cases?
Well, foxes don't investigate other foxes is the problem, because they're part of the establishment.
Now, Darcy Spears on Channel 13 News, she delved into the guardianship abuses and has done a couple of 3-4 minute sessions on TV. But again, nobody's gone to jail.
No,
And these
because they're the
people-
foxes.
I
doing
think
the
someone
money.
has gone to jail. One of the people that worked for Jared Schaefer went to jail. But he's the kingpin and they haven't gotten him.
Well, they need,
I've forgotten April Parks is one of them, and I've forgotten the name of the other one. April Parks has skipped town.
yeah. Well,
and they-
from what I understand, she has taken anything and everything of these clients, I think they're referred to, including their social security card, even their dentures in one case.
I guess you have the authority to do everything.
Yeah.
And that's the problem.
Yeah.
And then
And it's
judges
all
rubber
about-
stamp it. Because
Court
you're gonna
orders it,
contribute
and
to their
that's it.
campaigns, that's it.
You're in jail.
Yep, black robes are overextending their authority and abusing their power. It's
And
rampant, it's rampant.
How are you going to protect yourself against that?
I have filled out a form that Dan Roberts has actually printed in the Vegas Voice, where you appoint a guardian. They asked the Secretary of State to create a lockbox to hold all of these forms. Secretary of State, moving at a snail's pace, said they couldn't do it for another 6 months or a year.
Really?
So what the Vegas Voice did was,
So that's the new Secretary of State?
Yes.
Sigafsky?
Yeah.
Really?
the Vegas Voice has created a lockbox, a private lockbox, where you send the form in to them. They put it into a bank vault, and they also suggest that you send a copy of this authority to a friend or a relative and let them know if they have to get the original from the Vegas Voice, they'll release it. And they ask for a donation of $10 to cover their expenses. So that's what I did. And a lot of other
Now,
people
just to
did.
be the devil's advocate, let's say that the man you mentioned, Schaefer, gets a wind of this, maybe you're talking a lot of money, let's say. They get wind of this and wait a minute, this guy did something smart that usurps us, so what we need to do is go to a judge, one of our judges, have him declare that you were incompetent when you did that, and the judge will stamp that void. Your whole thing went out the window because the judge said void.
Well, I can't answer that directly.
You can't.
But
It's active courts, what they are.
when did you execute this statement? Now, I appointed you, for instance, as my guardian.
Right.
How are you going to nullify that? You can't.
A judge is going to
Now, it's
nullify
been
it.
notarized.
Okay.
So the notary saw you
Okay.
and evidently reviewed the document and knew you, that it was you, number one, and number two, that you were of sound mind at that time. But there's always a way around to do something evil and crooked.
Because a judge is gonna have to make the rubber stamp, that's it, goes out the
Well,
window.
the
judge is the
in
ultimate
this
authority.
case, this case is an exception to what normally happens, because Judge Hardesty has really taken charge of this, and Judge Barker in the here in the district court. Judge Hardesty is a Supreme Court justice, and Judge Barker is also committed to this. And they're committed to making changes, and they have. They've made.
Every now and then you get a good judge.
I think they've gotten the Nordheim and Hoskins off removed from handling these cases,
Wow.
and unfortunately, no one has prosecuted Schaefer, Jared Schaefer.
Or April Parks. Now, why is it taking so long for the DA to, quote, investigate this?
That's right.
We have so many good statutes that theoretically protect us, but nobody wants to enforce them. There's no accountability. I myself, in the last election, ran in a primary. I had two opponents. The dark horse won. The dark horse didn't even live in the district. He was a carpetbagger.
Mhm.
Well, the Republican who ran unopposed, I turned over all the information to her. She and her husband did some more digging, took it to court, and I forgot the judge's name, but he declared the Democrat ineligible. The Democrat said he was renting a bedroom in some apartment in the district. The judge disqualified him. He took appealed the district court judge's decision, took it up to the Supreme Court. A year and 3 quarters later, after the legislature was finished, said, goodbye, good riddance.
Moot.
It's moot.
Yep.
Exactly. and kicked it back down to the district court.
So he pursued it that far.
He is now suing his first attorney.
Oh, really?
And I think the attorney...
What's his name? I forgot.
Jesse Holder.
Yeah, right. He talked to me all the time. He said, here's what you do to win elections. He was so confident in what he was doing. He thought he had it made.
He was spreading misstatements about me, and we had to send him a cease and desist, which he then pulled some of those documents. But he was telling everybody that he was in the Navy. He also, in his introduction letter, said that he was stationed on a ship off the coast of Afghanistan.
Up the coast of Afghanistan.
Wait a minute.
That's pretty hard to do.
Yeah, because Afghanistan, the last time I looked at a map, is way, way inland.
That's right.
Landlocked.
Yeah.
So this guy told a lot of tall tales, but it finally caught up with him, fortunately. And he actually, when he won the primary, and before the judge ruled him ineligible, had to sit down with the Democratic caucus. And from what I've been told by those who know, he went in there like gangbusters. I'm going to do what I want to do.
Yeah.
And they told him, no, you will do what you're told to do, and you will play ball with us, or you're going to find yourself sitting in the corner with nobody to talk to.
But
He never got into
so
the
you-
legislature, thank goodness.
yeah, right. But he didn't win the election.
He
also
did not win the election.
If he had won the election and the Democrats
He actually-
had a majority, they would have seated him.
They were pretty leery about him. They
Well,
were very nervous with him.
Marilyn Kirkpatrick said, in the case of Smith, which was a similar case,
Yep.
Smith versus Seaman, they were going to they were encouraging all the Democrats to get out and vote, in spite of the judge's ruling, a Democratic judge no less, Judge Alf, ruling that she could not be
Excluded.
that Smith could not take that seat, and the Democrats called everyone together to go down and vote and win the election. And
What I've been told,
if the Democrats had controlled the assembly, they would have seated her.
yeah, what I've been told is,
And
Could
Holder.
they have not seated him? In other words, overturned the will of the people just by,
yeah,
we don't seat him?
yeah,
Oh yeah.
yes, that the assembly has the authority to seat or
No,
not seat.
you mean if
He was
if
elected.
if Smith or Holder had lost their elections, they didn't live in the districts. If they had lost the elections, no, I don't think they would have seated them in that case.
He didn't get elected.
They didn't get elected.
But if they had won, if they had won and gotten more votes, and they still had these court decisions against them, they still would have seated them.
In other words, the assembly or the
But
Senate would have
They could have not
overridden.
seated him.
No.
Of course they could have.
But that's against the will of the people.
Yeah, but
Wait,
the assembly,
they could have not seated them. What
If
do
he
you
was
mean?
elected, you're saying the legislature could just not seat him if they didn't like him? Even though he
It
was
isn't a
elected?
problem.
I know
I'm not
that.
talking about,
I know
this
that.
isn't, this isn't a popularity
I'm
contest.
putting a hypothetical.
Okay.
If you're elected, can the legislature not seat you just because they don't like you? You are
That's not
elected.
the issue here.
I know, I'm asking a
The
hypothetical.
issue here is there are judges ruling that this person cannot be seated, and the Democrats
Oh, okay.
were getting voters out to
Okay.
get them a greater number of
But
voters.
wouldn't that be
So-
separation of powers? That the legislature is their own power? And the
I would think so.
legislature, the judiciary can't intercede?
Well,
Can't
that's
say,
what
"Oh,
happens.
this." Yeah.
Yeah, but imagine you have a court decision against a court deciding that this person has no right to be on the ballot. He is not living in the district, and that the party the majority party in the legislature can rule against him.
Yeah.
Can rule against the judge.
Bizarre. Now, just as a follow-up, the Smith case, she was indicted, and she was supposed to go to trial, I think in April, and it's been postponed until September.
Oh,
The DA agreed, no, it was the Attorney General agreed that she had committed perjury on the election form, registration form, and they are holding her feet to the fire. And she is facing a jury trial in September.
but Jesse Holder is not.
Unfortunately, no. I filed a police report against him, and beloved police department decided not to pursue it, as the detective said to me, well, did you follow him home and see where he slept? We had I believe it was a note.
That wouldn't prove anything anyway. You could
Well,
still
it's-
sleep someplace else occasionally, you know.
Well, again, if you sleep there once a month, does that make you a resident of the district? No.
No, not once a month, that's right.
And actually, the way the law is written, you have to be in the district for 30 days, living in the district 30 days by the end of the close of the registration period. Now, the registration period is at 14 or 15 days. So that means you only have to have moved into the district 15 days before
The start of the registration.
the start.
Yeah, right.
Now,
Yeah,
how are you
but
supposed to represent the people of the district if you don't even know the district?
I have to do a disclaimer on this because
Uh-oh.
I was a carpetbagger in the case of the mayoral election. 5 minutes before the expiration of the time, I moved into Siegel Suites
5 minutes.
and
envelope there a
registered
little
it
Shame on
Jeez.
in order to run in the
Well,
mayoral election.
There's three
To make my
separate branches of government, right? You're running for the legislature part of it.
Just a
So,
disclaimer.
you. Okay.
right, so you pass laws because you're elected, so whatever laws you pass becomes the public policy of Nevada, right?
Hopefully.
Well, hopefully, that's my point. Now, a judge doesn't rule by statute, he just ignores it, doesn't rule by statute.
That's wrong.
Or
You're supposed to
let's say
enforce
he
the law.
takes, let's say there's a law that the legislature passed that says you must appoint someone named in a trust document making you the trustee. If you're named, you must be appointed first. The judge changes the language to should. No, it's must. It says must, but the judge does it. What's the procedure in the legislature that you change public policy by the stroke of a pen?
The only
You
thing
can't do that. How do
The
you?
only thing I can think of is that you take the judge's ruling up to the Supreme Court.
So you take a court ruling back to a court to rule against the court. That's not separation of powers.
No, but if the trial judge violated the statute,
You should go to the legislature, and the legislature should have a
No.
procedure saying you violated the law.
no, because the legislature has already passed the law, and now it's up to the judicial branch to enforce it.
They must
No.
enforce it.
No, not the judicial branch, the DA or the,
No.
no?
If no, he's
Or the-
So
talking.
you're
Yeah,
wasting your
I mean-
time passing these laws.
Well, most of the time they don't even enforce them.
That's what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
right. Yeah, right.
So,
No, you were talking about changing.
right, okay, but where's the enforcement? When they don't enforce them, why do you have to go to a separate thing, back to a court to enforce the court? Courts don't enforce courts. They're the foxes guarding the foxes.
Let me tell you a story that I am now very much engrossed in. 49 years ago, the city of Las Vegas authorized a developer to put a gate across a community called Rancho Bel Air. Inside of Rancho Bel Air, there was an existing community that had public streets.
Mhm.
The developer came along and bought the surrounding land and wanted to unify the existing community the 33 homes, and the new community, which was about 80 some odd homes. The city very clearly spelled out what the developer had to do. Guess what? It was never done. I found documents from the city attorney, deputy attorney, to the then head of development, asking how could this have happened? Nobody did anything until I came along and I started asking questions. This has created havoc for the board of this homeowners association. This association thinks they are above the law, and ironically, their defense attorney happens to be a state assemblyman who's a lawyer. And he has gotten his butt kicked every time we have gone into court. Anyhow, the point now is that there are gates across the streets of a community that is zoned R1. And according to the city zoning regulation, those homes have to be on a public street. The city told the developer 49 years ago they had to change the zoning if they were going to put the gates up.
You put the gates
Guess
up
what?
anyways.
The gates went up, the zoning never got changed.
Yeah, sure.
So here's a case where the city did nothing for 49 years. Did they look the other way? Did they have their heads under a pillow? So you've got laws to protect people, but nobody enforces them.
And
That's
and-
right.
And who
That's the
would
problem.
pay the damages
So-
that non-enforcement's caused? There's damages here. Who pays for it?
Whoever's going to bring the action, a guy like me.
Has to pay.
I am paying dearly. In fact, this afternoon, just before I got here, I got my monthly bill from my attorney. It was a cheap month. It was only $7,500 this month. I have paid so far in excess of $85,000 in this case, this lawsuit.
Yeah.
And we've been just put off until next January for the trial for the damages. The judge has ruled that I was never, nor was my house ever, in a homeowners association. The homeowners association thought they were riding high. Well, they were wrong, dead wrong.
Yeah,
The judge
Who's
is-
gonna pay?
Then the
Well-
homeowners association will get
Well-
a judgment against them.
We
and we'll
have
to pay.
asked for attorney's fees, which will be considered in December by the judge. But in the interim, the discovery judge has sanctioned Rancho Bel Air on 2 separate occasions for $5,000 each time for failing to follow the discovery procedures. So what it comes down to is if you can get it in front of a judge, now maybe you'll get justice.
Maybe.
Maybe, and maybe you'll get money.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to get paid tomorrow by the association. Now, if they don't come across with a check, I'm going to go for contempt of court
Yeah.
against them. And I would sleep very well knowing that somebody may go to jail.
Okay, who's gonna go to jail with a contempt of court? Who's it gonna be against? The person?
The
Or
board.
HOA?
The board.
The board.
So the whole
HOA.
board?
Let them take the whole board.
Yeah.
Let them be the guests of the city or the county for
I'd like to
some
see
nights.
that, but
So we'll have to, we've gone over our time.
Uh-oh.
And so we'll have to see the conclusion of that at some
I
other
will
time.
keep you abreast.
Thank you very much. And thank you for coming in.
My
Can you
pleasure.
tell the audience how to get in touch with you? How
Oh.
to,
Yes. My website, well, there's 2 ways. My website is www.Friedrich, FRIEDRICH4FORSD3.com. Friedrich sd3.com, or I have another website. It's called hoacorruption.com. hoacorruption.com. It is a resource type of website. It's got links to horror stories about homeowners and their fights and or court rulings that have gone against the homeowners.
Do you keep track of how many hits you get?
No.
No.
But we do get a lot of phone calls. My phone number is right on the front page of the home page of the website, and my partner, if you will, Bob Roby, who manages the website, he gets a lot of phone calls. And there's a gentleman who I've been talking to who lives up in Aliente that is a 45-year-old man, an airline pilot, father of 4 children, and he's trying to sell his house, which is underwater, and he discovered he's got a lien against the property, I think for either $6,000 or $8,000. He didn't even know about it.
From the
Beloved
homeowners
Association for having an RV parked on the side of his house. When he bought the house, he had an RV pad of concrete poured there, so he could keep an RV. And then one of the board members decided, I don't want any RVs in the community. And they changed the regulations, and boom.
And he
No
has
grandfather.
So can people go on your website and make contributions?
Please do.
Okay.
I am, as I said, running against an incumbent Democrat. I'm a libertarian, and I could use all the contributions I can get. I want to do mass mailings, and it's not cheap to run for office. There's,
Sure isn't.
the signage, the advertising, the mailings, and it costs a lot of money.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Friedrich,
My pleasure.
thank you.
Thank you. That was interesting. Wish we had more time.
Well, we can do it again.
Okay, that sounds good. That sounds good.
Jonathan's always available.
Well, you're talking about things that never
He's
end.
very
You've got
on the ball,
situations there.
going to different things.
The court system in this town is absolutely horrendous.
It's ironic because you got screwed by William Kephart, and I am being, what's the word, the opposite of
Rewarded.
Yeah, I guess you could say rewarded, winning by Mr. Kephart. Can I have this?
If you do research, you will find out
What?
that
Can
your
I have
lawyer
this?
contributed more money to Gephardt's campaign than the other lawyer. That's
This,
what
oh,
you'll
by the way,
find out.
this Amy Groves, has she been here speaking?
Yes.